Hello, YouTube friends. Ben Ochart here. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's Cichlids and Coffee. I welcome all of you who are here. I noticed we had some early birds, and let me check that out here. Mary Spelling. Looks like Mary Spelling was first. Mary, send me your, if you'd like some stickers, some channel stickers, just send me your email address to ben.o.cichlid@gmail. I'll get you some stickers for being the early bird. All right, so thank you for sitting in. Hello, David. Hello, Comply5, Edgar, Cat Sailor. Hey, Cat Sailor. Thanks for coming back. Looks like New Jersey, African cichlids. Been in New Jersey quite a few times. Welcome to the live stream. And Remco. Hello, Remco. How are you? And Chevy Fish. Doug M. Hey, Paul. The Inventory King is here. Check out his channel. What he's doing with saltwater is crazy. And I'm loving it. Doug. Hello, Doug. Hey, Tom. Over from one of my favorite spots on the planet, Malibu, California. And we got Don, Posiwi, Jack. All right. Edgar, Leo, Freeman. Hey, Freeman. And all right. So let's go ahead and get underway here. And as you know, once I get going here, I don't really watch the chat that much because it can be distracting, as you can imagine. So if I miss a question or if I miss a super chat or something like that, it doesn't mean I don't like you. It just means that I missed. It just means that I'm focused on what I'm doing. So don't be too mad at me. So let's see here. The other Tiffany mostly lurking. Okay. All right. Some of you are funny comedians and don't even know it. So today's topic is more myths, fish keeping myths, legends, urban legends, misconceptions, things of that nature. And what I'm doing here is I'm borrowing from some of the ones that you mentioned. You said, you missed this or you missed that, and a couple of them hit home. And I thought to myself, that should have been on the list. So let's go ahead and get into some of these after the usual startup points. Okay, starting with our channel, our little channel logo here. Now remember, if you're new to the channel and you're watching it live now, or you're watching it on the replay, be sure to hit that sub button and the bell and all that good stuff, so you get notified. And another special announcement is that I've just released a limited edition of mugs, and I have several fish on the mugs. I have I think I have the eye biter, the red cap, and let me see one other one. Yeah, there's the red cap and the eye biter, and there was one other one. It was done late at night, but anyway, there's three. There's probably going to end up being about 6 of them, and oh yeah, the Jalo Reef, that beautiful Jalo Reef. So at any rate, so some new mugs at the store, the Teespring store. You can see the link under any of my videos. This is how I fund what I do: the camera, the computer, the mics, the lights, all that stuff. It comes from your support of the channel, both in watching videos, which helps, and also picking up merchandise at the Teespring store or my Amazon link, and or super chats. For those of you who don't know what a super chat is where you can actually make a live contribution to the channel during a live stream, and usually that results in a shout out and getting your question answered, but not always. Sometimes I've been guilty, and I've gone back and I've seen that I've missed a super chat, and I feel terrible. I just want you to know that. But if you do super chat, thank you so much for that. And if you super chatted last week and I missed you, I'm sorry. So let's see here. let's take a look at what's been going on. Now, Aqua Rob is already asking questions. Aqua Rob, I'll try and get back to that question. It looks like a good one, and I will get back to it as we go along. So what's been going on? Well, I released the usual three videos, and the first video that I put out in the last week was kind of a surprise to me. I'll tell you what I mean by that. Sometimes you put, if you're a YouTuber, you know what I'm talking about. Sometimes you put out a video and you're thinking to yourself, this is going to be okay. It's not going to be great. This is not going to be very, very popular, but it's just kind of a fun thing. I'm just going to throw it out there. And so I threw out that video on color. And hey, Raul's Aquatics and Reptiles. And thank you so much, buddy. I appreciate it. Every super chat is greatly appreciated. So I threw this color video out there, and I was actually kind of shocked at how many people first watched it, and also how many people are having difficulty with color. Like it was an issue for them that they were not getting, they were not seeing color on their fish when they thought they should be. So that where's the color video, and you have so many factors in your fish coloring up. One, and I just had a conversation with somebody just the other day who suspected that a fish was juiced, and this is something you don't hear talked about too much, but sometimes fish have hormone treatments, and these treatments are so powerful that they can even make a female fish show color of some kind. And so you think you're buying a male, or it is a male and it's like super pumped and looks great, and you get it home and it just peters out and turns into a gray fish, and you're left there scratching your head. You're like, is it me? Do I have poor water quality? My tests are all good. I'm on my maintenance. What's happening? And a guy or gal can beat themselves up thinking they're doing something wrong, when what they did is they bought a juiced fish. And unfortunately, it happens. It may have been the person who sold you the fish, or it might have been the person who sold them the fish. So we don't know. So it's kind of hard to go back and go, hey, you sold me a juiced fish, and the person's like, I don't know. I bought an allotment of fish. I didn't realize they had hormones in them. So you've got the hormone issue, you've got the water quality, water parameters issue, right? Optimum, if you can keep it close to the optimum pH, optimum GH, KH, temperature, tank mates, these all play a role. Tank mates, if a fish is intimidated and subdominant or being harassed, one of their defense mechanisms is to appear more harmless, is to color down. And another factor is the color of your tank. Do you have a light substrate, a dark substrate? When I moved the fish from the 100 to this tank, I know I saw some changes because of dominance. I know that was going on, but I also saw changes in the color because of a white substrate. Going from a black substrate to a white substrate, I saw the fish lighten up considerably. So, in particular, the sand diver was, and he's still beautiful. It's sort of a very light pearl color, where he had deeper colors in the 100. The theory I've heard is that they try and blend. It's a defense mechanism trying to blend with the bottom, because the deadly attacks from above with the birds, right? So over time with evolution, the fish that look a little bit more like the bottom are going to less likely get picked off by a diving bird. At least that's the theory I've heard. I mean, who knows? Most of this stuff is guesswork, right? So I hope you're drinking out of one of these. This is my Cichlids and Coffee cup, and if you pick one of these up at the store, I guarantee you that your coffee will taste better, or your money back. That's a joke. The other video that was released after that was I was out running some errands, and I just happened to be next to my neighborhood PetSmart, and I stopped in, and it sort of dawned on me that for the brand new person going to a PetSmart, there are some questions that they would never think to ask. There are things that would never even cross their mind. And so I jotted down some questions and some things that I thought a new fish keeper or even an experienced fish keeper should be on the lookout for when they go to a big box store. And I wrote those down. Hey, Santos Misael comes in with a $10 super chat. Thank you, Misael. Very appreciated. So I gave some tips. If you're going to a big box store, go ahead and check that out, and definitely some things to keep in mind before you go to one. And that PetSmart that I went to is in my mind one of the best ones I've ever been to. I'm fortunate enough to have it within a mile or two of my house, and so and they have separate filtrations, some filtrations from the goldfish area and the rest of the tanks. The person that works the fish area told me they were going to be instituting a quarantine tank for new arrivals and a hospital tank for sick fish, which shocked me. And so at any rate, it's I was impressed with that store, but still they still had some one or two fish that looked in serious distress, and I think that a lot of it has to do. And I'm not trying to make excuses for these big box stores, because a lot of them are just neglectful. I mean, that's the honest truth. They just don't care. They don't know, and they don't care. That's something I've also bumped into, and that's the honest truth. But in some stores they do care. And sometimes they're receiving fish that have been through a tremendous ordeal in getting to them, and who knows how they acclimate. But so sometimes what you're seeing there is you're seeing a fish that was put into the show tank. Then the person goes off and goes and works in the dog section for 30 minutes or an hour, and so they really can't. They didn't notice that one fish flipped over or started swimming upside down or something. So don't be too hard on them. But if you see obvious neglect, very dirty tanks, a large number of sick fish, horrible ick like I saw at one of these big box stores, at one PetSmart, horrible ick covering the fish, and complete indifference from the employees, man, just turn the other way. Don't even consider buying a fish. Now, supplies. Someone told me, and I'm going to share this with you right now. Someone told me that PetSmart, and I believe it was PetSmart, has an app. And if you download the app, it'll give you maybe it's their treats program or some app like that. It'll give you coupons. So let's say you get a 10, 20, 25% discount, and the coupon can be applied to items that are on sale. So let's say you go there for a $1 a gallon sale, you pick up a 50-gallon, right, for $50, and you have a 25% coupon, right? So, or let's say they have an FX6 or FX5 on sale for like $100 off, and you have the coupon. You can use both of those. So, and in that way, these big box stores are pretty good to have around. So, and the other video that springboards, segues into this live stream was the one on fish keeping myths and lies and misconceptions and things of that nature. And we see a lot of urban legends that are passed along. Unfortunately, they're passed along by even by YouTubers. I mean, if I go back over some of my early videos, I guarantee you I'll find a couple things in there that if I listen to them now, I would go, I don't know if I like that. And maybe someday I'll do a complete audit of my videos and start deleting some of the ones that I think have something in it that is borderline. I don't think I've ever suggested anything that would kill fish, but we get information. We get information from YouTubers. We get information from the person working the counter at PetSmart, or even the kid that's working at the local fish store while the owner's on vacation, and we get information that might be wrong, and then this gets passed along. That person doesn't question it very often, because something comes from an authority. It gets accepted at face value, and unfortunately, it's not always true, because it's coming from a source that you might consider to be an authority. And so Fish Lies, again, a video that was more popular than I anticipated it would be. For those of you who watched the original video, you probably noticed I changed the thumbnail. I talked to a friend of mine. Some of you know him, Evan Alexander, and he shares tips with me and about thumbnails and things of that nature. And so anyway, so I cleaned up the thumbnail so I wasn't so busy, and I think it looks a little bit better now. So at any rate, that's what's been going on, along with the creation of those 3 limited edition fish mugs that are sort of honoring some of my favorite fish. I'm going to try and find a good picture of the old man. For those of you who have followed me for a long time, you know that the old man was an OB that I raised from a baby, and he got very large, lived a pretty good life, succumbed unfortunately to a disease, which I'm actually going to be getting into in a minute here. And but I'm going to try and find a picture of the old man and put him on a mug and sort of immortalize some of these fish that have been very special to me on these mugs. And then, of course, I'm going to have to order the whole set. So, in the category of what's coming up, I was at a dentist appointment, and it was a little bit far from my house because I had to go see a specialist about something, and whenever I go to an area that's outside of my immediate area, I always have to Google fish stores. And I had 2 fish stores that came up, and both of them were very interesting, but I only had the time to go to one. And I'm telling you, I found truly a hidden gem. And I'm going to share this fish store with you tomorrow. I don't want to spoil it for you, but let me just say that they had a quality of fish and a size of fish that was shocking to me. And if you like flower horns, if you like discus, you definitely have to see the video tomorrow. It just blew me away. And the person who runs the shop, a gentleman named Ken, was so sweet, so friendly. He's been running that shop for many, many, many years. And when you look at it from the outside, it looks like this old and a little bit tired, and you're kind of like, oh boy, did I pick, of the 2 shops I could have gone to, did I pick the right one? And then they've got a ladder blocking the door because they were doing some maintenance on something, and so, I'm second guessing myself. And this was in Alhambra, California, and I walk in, and it's like an oh my God. So at any rate, check it out tomorrow. It's called Hidden Gem. And I also have a video where I'm going to highlight and discuss every fish in the tank behind me, because I did the big move. I brought all the fish over a large number of the fish over from the 100. And now I have a lot going on in the tank behind me. So I'm going to go ahead and share with you every fish. This is something I do for you, and I also do it for me, because it gives me a bit of a timeline stock report. So I get to see where I was, so I can look back, let's say in 2 or 3 years, and go, what fish did I have, in July 2020? And I look and I go, oh wow, I forgot about that guy. Or look how small that fish was back then. Now he's a beast. So I can really get a perspective. And there was a while back, I actually made a video. I think it was called Why You Should Be on YouTube, or Why You Should Post to YouTube. And the video had to do with using YouTube as a video vault to chronicle your evolution as a fish keeper. Even if you don't share the videos, you can upload them unlisted or private, and use YouTube's gigabytes. Use their storage space, and then you can go back a year, 2 years from now, and go, oh my goodness, that angelfish was the size of a quarter. Now he's the size of a dinner plate, and you can compare the two, and in some cases even create a side-by-side video, which can be very interesting. And so, at any rate, use YouTube as a resource. It's a great resource. They're offering you this massive storage, so why not? So Heath Witzel comes in. Hey Heath, thank you so much for that super chat. Very appreciated. Will brown algae eventually go away by itself? I don't think so. It can be really stubborn. Check your phosphates. And there are some products and things you can get for phosphates. And believe it or not, I once picked up your simple, basic pleco. Nothing fancy, just a plain old pleco. And everyone told me black algae and brown algae is, plecos don't eat that. They're only going to eat. That pleco had that tank and the rocks looking brand new in 48 hours. I had to go and buy wafers because he had cleaned everything. So I'm not sure if that was that particular pleco that was a bit of a glutton, but the pleco solution is probably the best and most natural if a pleco is acceptable in your tank. I don't know if Chinese algae eaters will do it. Fish like red-tailed sharks, I don't know if they'll eat it, but this pleco destroyed it. And I'm not kidding. I think there's a video on it a while back, but where I play the side by side, and you can't. It looks like the rocks were taken out and scrubbed with a wire brush and then put back in. That's the kind of job that he did. So it just blew me away. But check of course, your phosphates. Check your water parameters, your nitrates. And I'm not sure brown algae is it impacted by the amount of light, and if so, reduce the amount of time your lights are on. Be sure your windows are closed. Don't have it in direct sunlight. I mean, there's the usual pleco advice that you hear. Post see, we and my plecos love brown algae. See, there you go. So it is another urban legend maybe that should have been on the list, that plecos will not eat black or brown algae. Plecos will go after that kind of algae. I have owned them, so I know from personal experience that they will, and so it might be an option. So I hope that answered your question and didn't confuse you a little further. So let's get into today's topic, and this is 3 additional myths, urban legends, and misconceptions. And we have the first one, and I'm going to tell you why I have those 2 videos highlighted on this slide. I buy from a trusted source, so I don't need to quarantine new fish. I've heard that numerous times. If I have any fish vendors, if Josh Cunningham or James Largo or anyone like that is on this live stream, or if you comment later after it posts, I want you to go ahead and comment on your thoughts, because both of you, of course, are reputable, fish vendors. What are your thoughts on that? Even the best, most reputable vendors will tell you, quarantine your fish. And it's one of those things where the saying I have is, it works until it doesn't work. And when it doesn't work, you can end up with the kind of situations or circumstances that are discussed in those videos. I imported Colomaris from a poorly executed quarantine routine. I ended up bringing Colomaris into a tank, and I lost 50% of my stock. And I consider myself lucky because if you go on YouTube and look up Colomaris, you'll come across a lot of fish keepers who say they lost all their stock. And some who gave up. They just said, that's it, I'm done with fish keeping. I'm finished. It's a horrible disease. It eats away parts of your fish, so they have ulcerated sections. Their tails rot away. It's just a horrible thing to experience. Fortunately, I found some medication put out by Mardel Fritz, and Maricin, it's called. I'm not even sure if it's available now. A Maricin 2, I think it was. Anyway, it stopped it. It stopped it. But not until it took its toll. So a quarantine tank is very easy to set up. You can even have a bucket with an air stone, and you can put an air stone in a bucket and a heater and maybe a small little sponge filter. And there's a lot of ways to quickly create a quarantine tank, and that doesn't involve a lot of cost, a lot of expense. I have in the sump behind me, I have maybe four sponges that a couple of them are filter inserts, and a couple of them are just chunks of sponge that sit in the sump so that they have beneficial bacteria. I also have a lot of what are called Brightwell NO3 cubes that have bacteria growing on them. And so I'll grab a handful of those. I'll grab some of those sponges, throw them into a small tank, fill the tank halfway with tank water and halfway with treated water. So it's like a little bit of a 50% water change. And I'm good to go. I have an instantly cycled hospital tank. So I can put a new arrival in it, or I can put a fish that is looking a little sick or beaten up. I can throw them in there and I'm good to go. So and it's instant. So number one, legends, lies, misconceptions. I buy from a trusted source, so I don't need to quarantine new fish. You roll the dice. I rolled the dice, and it worked for me until it didn't. And when it didn't, it was a train wreck. I mean, a real dumpster fire, and that I wouldn't wish on anybody. Myth number 2: a heater is a heater. A heater is one of those things where you should never cut corners, never buy the least expensive one. One of you suggested this in the comments, and I'm stealing it from you. All three of these, I think I'm stealing from you. If you're going to run a heater, and I don't run my heaters in the summer, I just unplug them because the house stays in the 70s, sometimes low 80s if we don't run the air conditioner, and so I just unplug them in the summer. But when you're running your heaters, these heaters can malfunction. And if I had $1 for every time somebody has written to me and said, I woke up this morning, the tank was around 100 degrees, all my fish were dead. And it's because of a heater malfunction. Usually the thermostat stops working. Whatever it is that connects to shut off or disconnects to shut off doesn't disconnect. It stays connected. It keeps heating and heating and heating, and essentially bakes, it just boils your fish. So invest in a quality heater, and if I have to add something to that, consider acquiring a controller. A controller is something that gives you a second safeguard, and it shuts off when the controller has a thermometer that goes into the tank, or a sensor. And that sensor, if that sensor gets to a certain temperature, it cuts off all power. And so what it does is it doesn't let your heater overheat. All of my heaters, except for the one I think on the 30-gallon, are on controllers. So it's a double safeguard. And I did have one heater malfunction. And if I didn't have that controller on there, I mean, I came out in the morning and the temperature gauge on the heater indicated that it was trying to take the aquarium to about 95 degrees. it was trying to go to 95, but the controller was shutting off and not letting it do it. So save my fish. So invest in a controller. You can get these, like, you have inexpensive ones like from Inkbird, or you can buy a real heavy duty model like from Gemco. I think it's called Gemco. They're an online fish supply provider, and they sell very heavy duty controllers that you can have, run 2 plugs, 2 heaters into it, and the thing is built like a battleship. Has a super thick cord, and 3 prong, and never fails. It's what I have back here on this tank. So a heater is not a heater, and please get yourself a controller, especially if you're in a cold climate and your heaters are working a lot. There's a chance they can malfunction, and buy a quality heater. But even quality heaters can fail. A lot of us have heard about the big Cobalt debacle that occurred years ago. Apparently they fixed it now, but they were notorious for overheating, and people that didn't have controllers lost fish. So, and that's an expensive heater, as the Neotherm line. But they've corrected it now, and I'm running Neotherm in 2 tanks, and they're running great. So, number 3. Instant aquarium cycle products are truly instant. No, they're not. It's been my experience that you throw in that instant cycle, and you immediately throw in some fish, you're going to have some distress. So my advice is to use those. I mean, I've used the products, but I've used them in conjunction with seasoned media. Like if I was starting a brand new tank, media from an established tank, and those products, and not doing water changes. Just let the ammonia build, and then let the nitrite build, let the nitrate, let it go through its cycle. Try not to interrupt it. Use those products, and then a slow introduction of fish. But if you throw in some Dr. Tim's or some Fritz Turbo or some Seachem Stability, and you throw that stuff in there, and then you go buy 20 fish and put them in, I guarantee you're gonna see some fish in a lot of distress. And as much as I'd like to give them 100%, I mean, this has been my personal experience. Okay, if you've had a different personal experience, you are totally free to disagree with me, and we can still be friends. In today's world, I'm one of those oddballs that you can disagree with, and I'll continue to talk with you, unless you're rude, or and then I just cut you right off. So, and I've got so you know me. I always throw in a bonus, and here's the bonus. A guy or gal on the internet with nice-looking fish said it's true, so it must be true. No. That's a lie. I don't care what the person's fish look like. And this applies to me too. Everything I say here is take it with a grain of salt and realize it's my opinion. Anything you get from anybody out there. And even, and I think even the most learned fish keepers, the ones I really respect, your Corey. Corey, this guy has done classes, has certifications from Aquarium Co-op. Rachel O'Leary, my God, that woman is a wealth of knowledge. Anyone out there, take what they say. If you agree with it, then do your own research and come to your own conclusions, because anyone can be off. Someone might have a knack for doing it a certain way that doesn't work for you. Someone might have a different water parameter or water source. Sometimes in the video, a person might have left off a step or a key point that by leaving it off, you end up creating a horrible situation for your fish and then can't figure it out because I did exactly what he said or what she said. Why are my fish dying? So always take everything with a grain of salt from whatever the source might be, whether it's a reputable, a brand new, me, anybody, and do your own research, come up with your own conclusions. And that's those are the 4 myths, urban legends, and lies that I'm going to include in this. And let's get into some of your comments and see what you've been talking about here. I can pull up this chat. Let's see here. So there you go, Nita. I've used Turbo 700 by Fritz, always had success. And I'll tell you something, I don't think these companies are intentionally trying to deceive us. They're not lying to us. I think they really do believe that their products do what they say they'll do. All I'm saying is that from my experience, you can rush it, or you can perhaps believe it too much and go too fast or add too many fish too quickly. But you know, the truth is you could add too many fish too quickly, even to an established tank. I guess you could overload or overwhelm the filtration and beneficial bacteria. So I guess that's possible with any of it. So Chevy fish, that's and Sean DeClerc, excellent point right there. Yeah, if your aquarium is being heated by that, is being overheated, there's a chance that, well, the heat may have killed them, but also the lack of oxygen, because the oxygen cannot dissolve, it can't get into the water. And there's a couple reasons for it. One that I've heard is that because the most oxygen-rich water is at the top, and when you really heat up the aquarium, that water is evaporating quickly, and so you're losing oxygen out the top very, 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 very quickly. Also, oxygen dissolving doesn't occur in a very hot tank. This is something to keep in mind if you're treating your tank for ick and using the raise the temperature technique. Then you should add an air stone, because you're going to end up with oxygen-starved fish. Just an added thing to do when you're raising the temperature. And I'll tell you, raising the temperature to treat ick worked for me wonderfully. And I was vacuuming and picking up the eggs, because it falls off the fish, and then those eggs hatch and the little swimmers come up and reattach. It's a horrible cycle, but you can break the cycle by raising the temperature, and then the ick can survive. Gradually to about the mid 80s, and add an air stone. The fish can tolerate it fine. The ick can't, and it dies out. And you don't need anything else. You don't need salt. I also hit it with Ick Attack from Corden, Ick Attack. But anyway, just something to keep in mind. Very, very good point on that oxygen. And Kristen, I live in Texas. Should I turn my heaters off during? Well, it depends on what your temperature is. I mean, try it. Try it and watch your tank. If the tank fluctuates just a few degrees, let's say it goes down to 78, 77, and then comes up gradually up to back to 79, that's not going to stress your fish. That happens in nature. There's slow changes. The fish will swim through different temperature zones in the lakes, things of this nature. So, try it. It'll save you a little bit of money, and greatly reduce the wear and tear on your heaters, eliminate the possibility of a heater malfunction. So there's a lot of good reasons to disconnect them in the summertime if you live in a warm climate. Let's see here. James, handy. I've been in the hobby since the 60s. I don't trust any online expert. Good. Yeah, you gotta be skeptical. You gotta be skeptical, and at least have a mind that challenges what's being said. And I'll tell you, some of the biggest mistakes I've made in keeping fish has had to do with somebody saying something and then me rushing and doing it. And being very young in keeping cichlids and not really understanding the entire concept behind it, and then having a very negative outcome. So just something to keep in mind. So let's see here. I'm going to take up your questions here. And I'm scrolling back through the chat. We have 99 concurrent viewers. Let's get that up to over 100. Call up your friends, text them. And let's see here. Edgar Rivera, my water treatment plant is down the road, and I seen a pallet of 5-gallon bottles of chlorine. Yeah, they got to treat that water, to get it to the consumer. And you're drinking pool water, and so just keep that in mind. And I think that the worst thing that they're doing now is they're using that chloramine. I mean, chlorine gases off. So if you have, back you listen to folks that go, well, I put my water in a big tub and I let it sit, and then I add it. That's a very old school way of handling your tank water, because the chlorine would gas off, but chloramine doesn't gas off. Apparently, it stays in there forever, and so you still need to treat the water. Reginald Woods, love the channel. Thank you, Reginald. I appreciate that. Jordan LaBelle, I have a Buccochromis yellow rhodesii that has both eyes puffed out, been that way for a week, been treating with Melifix, I guess, and Epsom salt baths and water changes. Any ideas? Jordan, I'm going to just be straight with you. I've had no luck, and some people have, but for me personally, I've had no luck with the Mela products. It seems like it would be like, okay, here's a natural, gentle. As a matter of fact, I was treating what looked like fin rot, which turned out to be colomaris, with Melifix and the other one, Pimafix, I think. And all it did was allow the colomaris to really take hold, and then start the devastation. So I would definitely get into a stronger medication, maybe a general cure. But for eye puffiness, usually the best thing is clean water changes, what you're doing, and some patience, and it should clear out. And you don't want them to lose those eyes. And I did have a fish that lost an eye once, and it was kind of a sad situation. But yeah, water changes, and maybe get into something like a general cure. Might hit it from different angles. And then when you're all done, put some carbon in a mesh bag so you get all the medication out of that tank when the fish gets better. Throw the carbon out after about a month. But don't have carbon or anything in there when you're treating, because it'll absorb the medication, not let it work. Okay, don't have anything like Purigen, ChemiPure Blue, Green, carbon, none of that stuff in your filters when you're treating, because it will absorb the medication and not allow it to do what it does. Night Rider, some cities have a web page that you can go to that will tell you what they're adding, what they're treating. Like let's say there was a lot of runoff or some heavy rain or something, and they felt that it was necessary to do a super treatment. You can go to the web page. They should list it. Would I trust 100% what they say? I don't know. I don't know. I will still be very cautious. King Kong, I am drinking a very strong organic French roast, and my wife buys it. I'm not sure of the details, but all I can tell you is that it's if heaven has a taste and a smell, it's like this. Let's see here. I'm just scrolling through. I'm going back in the comments. King Kong, anyone feeding their fish with garlic? King Kong, I've used garlic guard and things of that nature. Focus, I think, is a garlic product. Some products have garlic in them. Like, I think the omega-1 cichlid cubes have garlic in them, which makes them irresistible to the fish. I use the omega-1 garlic cubes. I use them for finicky fish. For example, I get a new fish and it doesn't eat. I'll put a garlic cube in there, and man, oh man, they devour it. And so I think the secret ingredient is garlic. So also when you treat with things like Metroplex, things like that, soaking the pellets in a little bit of garlic guard or Focus before feeding, that'll get the fish to ingest it and get the like, let's say a parasite treatment to get into the gut. So garlic is good, not something I use on a regular basis. All right, Remco comes in with a super chat. Thank you, Remco. Let me see. What are your thoughts on medicating the food instead of the tank? If I'm treating an internal parasite, a sunken belly, a bloat kind of thing, I definitely would medicate the food. Otherwise, I medicate the tank. And I will say this: when I knocked out the Colomaris, I bought on eBay. I found somebody, a reputable vendor with a lot of sales, a 99.9% satisfaction rate, which is what I look for on eBay. He was selling flakes that were treated with what is called gram-negative antibiotics. And so I was feeding those flakes. The fish were just eating them up, loving them. And I think that helped, together with the Fritz Marison, that double whammy, I think that helped to stop the Colomaris. So, yes, I'm a fan of putting the medicine in the food, in particular when treating something inside. Now, something as aggressive as Colomaris, I would say, yeah, get it inside the body. Get it inside. Because Colomaris is weird. It can show outside signs, like that little white bar, that vertical bar behind the dorsal fin that runs down the body. The fin rot, the cotton in the mouth. It can look like so many diseases. But it can also show no signs. The fish just tips over and dies because it attacks the organs. So, yeah, I would definitely go internal, external on something as aggressive as Colomaris. And thank you for that super chat, my friend. That is appreciated. So let's see here. Jordan LaBelle, Edgar Rivera, I've been doing 80% water change every other day. Should I do every day? Also, she's been eating great, seemed fine, besides both eyes are popped out. Yeah, I wouldn't get into I would say every other day, you're probably okay. And if it's getting better, that's the key thing. Does it look like it's getting better? If it's staying the same or getting worse, you got to change something. If it's getting better, keep doing what you're doing. So that would be the measurement I would use. Am I seeing progress? If I'm not seeing progress, change something. If you're seeing progress, keep doing what you're doing. Don't change anything. Night Rider, giving somebody advice to turn. Yeah, Night Rider, I have my lights on a timer, and I run them probably just a few hours a day during feeding and viewing, during live streaming, but they chill out. They chill out when when the lights are out. Usually, sometimes I hear some splashing, but yeah, I'm a big fan of lights out. I think lights out works better than timeout when it comes to the aggression in African cichlids. Long Lee or Long Lai? How do you pronounce that? Long Lee or Long Lai? I'm not sure how to pronounce it. I'm sorry. But the biggest fish in the tank behind me, in mass and weight, is the Venusus, and in length, the trout. The trout is now longer than the Venusus. And here, let's take a look. Let's get in there. Let's get inside this tank. Let's see here. You can see that. The Venusus. The Venusus has a lot of mass. That fire hab has a lot of mass as well. I suspect that Livingstoni, if you look at him, he's just built like a truck. And he's going to be an interesting challenger at some point down the road. But look at that trout. That trout is probably 10.5 to 11 inches. Eye biter's probably closer to 10. And the Venusus, who is just coming into the screen there, is pushing 10, probably right around 10, but has a tremendous amount of mass and weight, and because of that, he's still the tank boss. But the trout will get bigger, and the Livingstoni will be as big as the Venusus. And the way that Livingstoni eats and behaves, he may end up being actually bigger than that Venusus, because he's a freak. He's a bit of a freak. He has two brothers and sisters inside this tank, and they're half his size, and he was from that same group of Livingstoni. So let's see if I can get out of the way here. Yeah, you can see there. I've got a long nose back there grazing on the bottom, being chased by the trout. But you can see everybody seems to be relatively peaceful. The Fusco's down there in the corner. The fish cam is one of my Logitech cams, a little different from the camera that I'm using for the other broadcast. So let's get back to some of your questions. Sean says, my shell dweller fry actually nibble on brown algae on the back glass. That's cool. Very, very cool. Yeah, if you see algae, if you see that the fish are grazing on the algae, I would leave the algae alone. As you folks know, I have an algae scrubber, and that algae scrubber, when I disconnect it from the side of the 100 and lay it out, the fish will graze on it for 2 days, and then I pull it out and clean it and then put it back up. But they will just be on it, like it's amazing. It's it's one of those movies of the lions around the kill. I mean, they just converge on it, and they love that algae, especially the yellow Benga sunshine that I picked up from the Wonder of Cichlids, the OB, which might be a hybrid with a Mabuna, right? Which love to eat greens, and so NJ African Cichlids had some truly lucky finds at PetSmart. Most amazing electric blue hat. That's funny you say that. I had a beautiful electric blue. If you go back like a year and a half, you can see him in my videos, and he was a PetSmart purchase, and gorgeous fish. So whoever sells them their electric blues obviously has a great line, because this guy was just gorgeous. Sean says, I've been pretty lucky so far, lost an OB to bloat. Otherwise, no real illnesses or outbreaks, knock on wood. Yeah. You keep in your routine maintenance, keep your water changes, your filter maintenance in, keep an eye on them, don't overfeed them. Remember, they're going to act hungry 24/7. That's a sign of a healthy fish. Cichlids are liars. They'll tell you that they need food when they don't. They're notorious liars. All right, let's see. Edgar Rivera, there's some truth in that, I think. Whenever you add new fish, you roll the dice. And this is why you're seeing some people here in the comments really, really emphasize quarantine. Really, really quarantine. Because no matter how healthy that fish looks, something can show up later. And or maybe that fish is carrying something that they have a resistance for. Someone told me that this is the risk you take when you buy fish directly from the lake, what they call F0. You have F1, which is the offspring of fish from the lake, or F1. F1s are usually a little hard to find, right? But F0, right from Lake Malawi, well, they have probably parasites that they've developed some immunity to. And a good example of that was in the discovery of the New World by European explorers, right? They brought things to the New World, like to the Caribbean, that wiped out indigenous people because they had no resistance for it. But they were carrying it around. The people from Europe were carrying it around like nothing. It was like they just built up resistance for it. That can happen in your tank. Cat Sailor, you're welcome. I even have a video. Cat Sailor, there's a video on instant cycling. I think it's called Instant Cycle or Instantly Cycle Tank. Watch that video. It has, I actually show you the steps on how to have an instant hospital tank. And the truth is, you can apply that to any tank, to have an instant tank, instant show tank. If you have seasoned filter media, that pretty much will get you there instantly. Oh, let's see here. The only time I would say don't quarantine, and this makes total sense when you hear it, the only time you don't quarantine is when you're starting a brand new tank. You don't have any fish. So the first batch goes right into your show tank, because that is, in essence, your quarantine tank. So that would be the only time I'd go right directly to a show tank. Brian, the disabled aquarist, agree, instant cycle in a bottle is a joke for the most part. Some can work to help with the cycle and possibly shorten the time a bit, but they cannot be trusted. Big myth. Yeah, someone told me that the bacteria, I once heard, Brian, that the bacteria, how can that be alive on the shelf? I know there's some refrigerated bacteria, like I think Dr. Tim had some refrigerated bacteria that made a little more sense. I don't know. All I know is that to cover all bases, I've used a little bit of everything, and I've had good results. But I didn't rely entirely on the instant cycle product. All right, let's see here. Don Taylor, 100 watching and only 40 likes. Hit the like. Okay, folks, you need to do what Don says. You need to follow Don's instructions. Thank you, Don. Appreciate that. Stephen LeBlanc comes in with a super chat. Thank you, Stephen. Very appreciated. What's your best cure for Malawi bloat? Oh, boy. There's a product called, I think it's called Clout. I start with General Cure. I will sometimes Metro soaked in Focus, Metroplex. I'm not sure if you can even get Clout anymore. If you know, folks know about Clout, the product Clout. I've seen people that take droppers and put them inside the fish. Maybe that's more for parasites. Bloat is a very difficult one. And I've had it happen maybe once or twice in all the years, and so it's not something I have a lot of attention on, and I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on it. And I think in both circumstances, the fish didn't make it. Just became very big, started hanging out in the corner, and then expired on me. And so, but there was a product called Clout, I think it was called, circulating around for a while. If any of you folks know about that product, post it. And definitely don't overfeed, and feed good quality food. Don't feed food that shouldn't. Like, for example, I've heard extremely high protein, like bloodworms, fed to African cichlids. It might be too much for their digestive systems. And so watch what you're feeding. I think the best solution is prevention. In this case, every now and then, fast your fish for a day. Maybe every Sunday, don't feed them. Let their systems clean out. Throw some vegetables in there every now and then. Even with predator haps, throw some veggie, some veggies in there, some spirulina. Zoomed makes a decent spirulina product. Really kind of give the digestive tract a break with some veggies and some fasting, and just let them clean out every now and then. And that's been my routine. And knock on wood, that I haven't had a bloat in a very long time. I hope that helps. And not an area I can say that I'm extremely. But if you certainly if you Google on YouTube Malawi bloat, you're going to get 25 videos. Posiwi, in a couple of years, my fish will be that big. Okay. I hope so. Yep, GP. Feed the fish less for a few days. Soak the pellets before you drop them. Yeah, get that medication into. I mean, what you're trying to do is you're trying to unblock the fish. Some people use salt. They say salt can work as a mild laxative. So what do you get? 1 tablespoon for every 5 gallons, right? Dissolve it in a cup first and then add it to the tank. And sometimes that can work as a laxative and get the fish to pass whatever it is that's blocking up the intestinal tract. Something I heard once. Posiwi, you're going to need a tank for eye biters that's at least 6 feet across, a 125, a 150, a 180, 6 feet across at least. 8 or 10 feet even better, but 6 feet for sure. So 125, between 125 and 180 should do it. All right, any questions, add them onto the chat. I'm getting near to the end of it. GP to neutralize nitrites, dose with prime. Actually, this is exactly how I cycle my tanks, with fish in the tank from day one. And are you doing water changes, GP? Gurvinder Parmar, one of our moderators, does a great job. Are you doing water changes while you're cycling the tank? That's the question I have for you. Or are you leaving it alone, letting it run its course? Stephen LeBlanc, sometimes you have a male 6-inch red empress that started not eating. trying to start treating before showing signs of bloat. Well, if not eating, you're probably going to have signs of you're probably going to have more of a sunken belly as opposed to an enlarged belly. But chances are a couple things. First of all, a fish that big, I don't want to bum you out, but you might have a fish that's near the end of his life cycle and is starting to, that's a pretty big fish. I don't know how long you've had him. How old is he? When they get near the end of their life cycle, they'll stop eating. Some fish are just finicky. Go pick up some of those omega-1 cichlid cubes. They seem to be irresistible. Try some of that. Mix a little garlic in with some food. See if that gets them going. And that would be my advice. Soak and focus. Garlic guard, that might help. Michael, I've kept Michael Butler. I've kept 2 red empresses together. They were okay. They didn't really. They were both males, and they were both colored up. And I ended up selling one of them, but they didn't seem to be too much interested in going after each other. But I think as time goes on and one would become more dominant, especially if you had females in the tank, you'd have a problem. But maybe just 2 males, one in a confirmed subdominant position, you'll probably be okay. I definitely would keep an eye on it. Definitely keep an eye on it. John Larson, the move has been moved back a little bit because my son was called back to Major League Baseball and is not able to go with us to Nashville. The Phillies have reopened their training facilities, and he was called in. He is a Major League batting instructor, and so that has slowed things down. So we're probably going to go closer to the end of the year at this point. And let's see here. Sean, I wouldn't recommend drinking garlic guard. Maybe add a little bit to your shrimp before you cook them. That might be better. Oh, it's hard not to drink garlic guard. I read that wrong. I get it. Yeah. Try with a little bit of shrimp. That should be good. I have cloudy water since I restarted my tank January 19th. That's a long time for cloudy water. I would usually think that what some people call new tank syndrome would have already passed by now. Something is going on. Something is blooming. I would, Robert. I would try something like I don't know. Do you have Purigen? Try some Purigen. Maybe some Clarity from Chem, or even Boyd Industries, some of their water clarifying things, right? Something like that might work. A water, or maybe even just throw some floss, some crib batting in your filter. You can buy this any fabric store. Polyfill, untreated. You don't want it to be flame retardant because that's treated with chemicals. Get untreated crib batting, polyfill, and throw that into your filter. See if that helps. And but there are products like Chem Clarity, Chem Pristine, Chem Purigen, and things like that. That can the Clarity and the Pristine. I think what they do is they attach a natural binding agent to whatever it is clouding your tank, so that so it's big enough now and the filter can grab it. So it's a natural way of doing it. It's not necessarily a chemical. They call it a natural water clarifying. So maybe something like that might work. Remco, yes, don't drink garlic guard before going on a date. You guys are getting silly. I think it's time to end off this. Or some of you started, because some of you are in different parts of the world. Some of you start the stream with a couple beers, and instead of coffee, and for you it's suds and cichlids, and so by the end of the stream you're not feeling any pain. I understand. All right, so all right, so with that being said, let's go ahead and I want to really thank those of you who did super chats. It's very sweet of you to do that and help with the channel, and I want to thank all of you who are here. All of you who are here, and especially my moderators who keep an eye on things and keep things moving, and also stay tuned because I'm going to be doing a review on a product that somebody sent to me. Check this thing out. Expertmatic. Watch for the review on this. I am very impressed. It's currently running in the back corner of this tank. It's creating aeration and moving a lot of water. And so look for the review on this product. I'm very impressed so far. And they were kind enough to send it to me and ask for a review. It's basically an air stone and a filter, a water polisher, powered by a motor inside the tank. Because I have this overflow box, you can't even see it. So I've got the perfect place for it. I was going to be hooking up the 704B when I added the additional fish, and then these folks sent me this thing, so I went ahead and put that in, and so it's adding the oxygen and the water movement. So I still have my 704B offline. It's just the sump that's rated at 2,000 gallons an hour that's moving and filtering the tank behind me, and as you can see, it's looking pretty good, pretty clean. So that being said, that's it for me. Be sure to see the video tomorrow on my tour of that hidden gem aquarium shop, and I hope to see you folks next week. And that's it for me. Thank you so much.